ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. In today's episode, the snake oil salesman of the What You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2024 movie Mononoke, Phantom in the Rain. Let's meet today's wandering merchants. First up, if you were a peddler, what ware would you be holding, Kat?
If I was a peddler, I'd probably be holding fake saffron because, we need somebody to get the rocks off.
I don't know what that means.
What do you mean by that?
What do you think I mean by that?
Saffron is an herb.
It is an herb, but it is showed to be somewhat helpful. Yeah, it's somewhat an aphrodisiac.
Okay.
So I'd be holding fake versions of it. It's like it is the most expensive herb, or one of the most expensive herbs in the world.
Gotcha. So you're selling fake erectile medicine. Got you. Okay. Next up,
boy.
Next up is Jay. You know he's slinging that good. Jay, what are you carrying?
I would take a note from one of my goats, Mr. Regan Arataka, and I would sell psychic power, like psychic services to the rich.
A wandering psychic. I love that shit.
Yes.
A wandering fake psychic.
Correct.
We all know Miles got the good over the counter. Miles, what are you selling?
Meth.
Perfect. Straight to the point. And Pat.
Yeah, hello. I would never do anything illegal. So there you go. I don't know. That was probably one of my worst improv things I've done in a while, but we'll figure it out. We're watching for Watch Club today the Mononoke, the movie Phantom in the Rain, or Karakasa in its traditional language. This aired in July of 2024, done by Studio Iata. The genres of horror, mystery, supernatural, suspense, themes of adult cast, historical, mythology, and psychological. Yeah, we actually did the show that this is a side story off of called Mononoke. We did this for Watch Club in our first year as our first Halloween episode in 2020. So like November of 2020 was the last time we discussed the show. I believe 4 of us were there for that.
It was pre-J Factor, correct?
It was pre-J Factor. I can't remember if Kat was there or not.
You probably was.
I was absolutely there. I was there for the first Watch Club.
No, I know, but then you had a gap. You had a little mini gap during.
I got bullied off the podcast.
What? No, you didn't.
Well, he said it, so it must be true. We can't deny it. No, yeah. Well, that's where I was wondering. Well, maybe it'll happen again someday soon. We'll see. No, kidding. I love you, Kat. We need you to reach our quotas. If you catch my drift, So you're not going anywhere.
People with bad taste.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You're here, Miles. Don't.
Got him. All right, sweet. Sorry,
I don't even know what's happening. My internet is cutting out every 10 seconds. So did I get burned?
Yeah, you got smoked, bro.
Yeah, sure. I will accept the L.
Your house is on fire. How bad you got burned?
Yeah, you'll have to watch the episode to find out. Sick plug, Pat. Thanks, Pat. All right. I don't know. My brain is also fried after watching this movie. Let's do our opening thoughts. God, we're really off track already. Miles, what are your first impressions, and would you recommend this?
Yeah, I was excited to watch this, and I guess like my first impressions was like this was definitely just like a long episode of Mononoke, which is good if you enjoyed the show, and I did. So I very much enjoyed this. I liked the longer length to it. I thought that allowed us to get slightly more characterization on like the subjects of the supernatural attacks than we would get in the show for most of them. Some of the show episodes were like multi-episode long little arcs, and so it was probably comparable to something like that. I thought the show was beautiful. It looks like really good. I really loved the visuals and stuff, and just the entire aesthetic and stuff is I jammed with. I feel like you could probably just jump into this and enjoy it without seeing the show too. I think I'd recommend it.
There you go. All right, Kat, what about you?
Oh man, this movie was beautiful. I would absolutely recommend it. It's so much fun. It's like, you could probably jump into it like Miles said, but I would say that if you watch the series first and then jump into this, it's just a leap in quality that just feels so earned for this show. If I'm being honest, like it just feels so good to watch it have the transitions and have the animation that it does. It just hits that right spot. I would absolutely recommend it.
All right. Jay, what about you?
Yeah. I had heard a lot about the original series going into this. So to give the viewers a little bit of background, I have not seen the original Mononoke. I had asked whenever we got this, hey guys, do you think that this is cool if I like don't watch it like the original series? I don't feel like doing all that. And most of you guys, it was just a resounding no, go watch it. And then I was like, I don't like that answer. I'm gonna go look on Reddit for people that agree with me. And I found one comment that agreed with me that had a singular upvote, and I was like, that's enough. I'm just gonna watch the movie. It should be fine. It's an episodic thing anyway. Who cares? And you know what? I was entirely right, is the thing. I didn't need to watch that movie at all, or show at all. It turns out it's not even the same dude. They don't tell you that at all, but it's not. So, like, yeah, I don't think you need to, like, I agree with Kat that you probably will get more out of it if you have watched the original series, because, like, you know, there's a bit of payoff, and it's been, what, 17 years or something like that since the
Yeah.
original series came out. So, like, that's just going to feel nice no matter what. I get that. But I also do think that if you're worried that, oh, I haven't watched the original series, I can't just go and watch Caracasa, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think that this movie can be viewed as its own experience in a lot of ways, or this trilogy that's coming out will be able to. It's just a solid movie. Like, I recommend this for anybody who just wants to watch a cool mystery movie with stunning visuals.
There you go. All right, Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with what Jay said for the most part. Coming into this, like, we all really enjoyed Mononoke when we reviewed it over 4 years ago. Fun fact, we gave it an 8.42, and its Mal score is an 8.42. So we are exactly the average on Mal for what we gave it, so that was really fun. But I was blown away, like, straight up. Like, I gave the OG Mononoke a 9, and I thought that was, like, just visually stunning. And, like, 3 seconds into this movie, I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, this is so cool. So many times I uttered the words like, this is fucking awesome, this is dope, this is so cool looking, the entire time I was watching this show. I think we'll talk about it more when we go into that. There are some things that there's like so much symbolism in this, and there's so many questions that go into this that I think people could be confused whether like you're overwhelmed by like the message it was trying to send, but like I was so entertained throughout this movie. I would absolutely recommend it. I would still recommend watching the OG. It's for a show that came out in 2007. It's breathtaking how good it looks. This is just like a step up from that style of animation, and you're in for a ride. I will just say, don't watch this high. I feel like I was high watching it. So 2 thumbs up from me.
There you go. All right. And yeah, I also am going to recommend this series. However, I would recommend it with the caveat that it is a lot. Like, you need to put your phone down or close out your other tabs when you're trying to watch this show. So if that's not a show that you'd usually enjoy, do not watch this show. I really do remember enjoying some of the arcs of the original show more than others, and I think that this one would have fallen closer to the ones that I would not have enjoyed compared to the original show. I felt pretty overwhelmed by like what Pete was saying with some of the symbolism, to the point where I thought I didn't understand what the movie was trying to say, or what points it was trying to make. But then when I talked to Miles about it, apparently I did get them. So, you know, like I maybe I just went in expecting different things. I think the visuals are stunning and just incredible, and they are a step up from the original. However, I think it also comes to its detriment at certain points as well. Like, I was pretty like overstimulated trying to watch it at certain points, and I think we'll talk about the more specific like reasoning behind that later on. I'll give a little bit of a spiel about it, but I still would recommend this movie. I would also recommend watching the original series first, though. I I also, yeah, Jay, I found that out too, that it is a different person apparently in like some of the comments that I was reading online. And it's like, why? Why is he a different person? You know, like, I don't understand. He doesn't act that differently from his original self either, from what I remember at least. It's
Do you want
I
the
don't know.
in-universe reason or the real-life reason for why it is a different person?
Oh boy, I would like both. Let's start with the real life reason.
The real-life reason is that the voice actor got into some shit and they changed him. They changed him out.
Fun.
The in-universe reason is he mentions they have like the 64 swords in Guardians or whatever. So there's
Mm.
just like 64 of this, between 0 and 64 of this motherfucker on the planet at any given time doing his hijinks, basically.
Right. Cool. That's a pretty good way to do it. So I'm guessing we'll never see the OG guy again, but you know what? He did a lot. He already did solved a lot of problems. So good for him. But yeah, I guess that's I think that's 5 recommends from us. One caveated one, the other 4 seem pretty like just straight up go for it. Yeah, so I guess spoilers for this movie going forward. Miles, do you have an initial synopsis for it, or should we just get right into something we want to talk about?
Miles here. Yeah, so the movie starts out, we have our 2 main protagonists, Asa and Kame, as they enter the Oku and are in line to be the next, or competing to be a concubine for the whatever emperor in feudal Japan. We soon learn that there is some supernatural elements going on that has like sort of cursed the Uka themselves. So then we jump into sort of the mystery that is behind this story of Mononoke. So that's sort of the quick synopsis, and we're gonna jump into our first discussion topic that Jay actually had set up. So Jay, take it away, sir.
Yeah, so I watched this twice. Once was right before this very watch club, and the second time I watched it in English. Which, Pat, to go back to a point that you had mentioned before about like this is a put your phone down sort of movie, like you got to be paying attention. I think watching this, the English dub of this, if you're somebody who does not speak Japanese, which majority of all of us here are actually, and everyone in the watch club doesn't speak Japanese and never has. I think that it helps out a lot, so you don't have to pay attention to the subtitles as much, because there's a lot going on visually in this. But the burning question that really stuck out to me is, so you guys know how he has the sword that goes like whenever he's doing stuff?
Yep.
Obviously, we all want this sword to be voiced by somebody. Who would be a better voice actor for the sword? Eddie Murphy or Chris Tucker?
Oh my god. What? Jay, okay, so for everybody, Jay set this up before we record the episode. He goes like, I had this burning question that I need answered. I was like, okay, cool, save it for the podcast. And I was legit thinking it was going to be.
I'm really glad nobody asked me, because I wouldn't have been able to like hide it.
Yo.
If I'm honest.
Incredible question. So was it Chris Tucker and who?
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Ooh.
Oh, and this is a Rush Hour era.
Okay.
Chris Tucker,
So
before
the
he
sword's
got all
gonna be
religious.
racist if it's Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not going to be very cool with the Japanese people around him, probably.
Fuck.
It's so funny if you go back and watch Rush Hour, just how racist Chris Tucker's character
it's
is.
incredible.
It's incredible how racist. It's great, but he's just so racist. I think I'm still going to go Chris Tucker.
He's doing a stereotype, like that's the whole point, and it's funny. Like, yeah, I also would pick Chris Tucker easily, without a doubt.
I think it would be hilarious if it was Chris Tucker being racist towards humans.
Yeah.
It's just cussing out the peddler every time that he tried to use the sword until he got everything. Oh, that would be fucking hilarious. Yeah, I'd go with Chris Tucker.
And if you guys have any suggestions for who might be a good voice actor for Cone the Sword, because like, come on, man, that sword should have been yapping. He was mouthing the whole time. He wanted to yap.
The words just won't come out.
Yeah.
All that came out with things.
That is so good.
Thank you.
Incredible question.
I actually have a comment as well, Jay. Like, I still had to focus pretty hard because I watched it dubbed. I almost wish I had the subtitles on at certain points just because of some of the names. It might have helped me with the names a little bit. And also, it is pet peeve with just dubs in general. I hate it how dubs just don't translate things that are still on the screen. So like the day in and day out stuff, I did not understand that was
They did that
like
on Netflix. Oh, you didn't watch it on Netflix.
I watched it on a
You-
Netflix rip though. So like I
yeah,
don't
it
understand
should
why
have
it
had
wasn't.
that.
It should have had that. Exactly, and it didn't. So I'm annoyed. Or well, it was just tough, I guess is my point to like fully process because of that. So again, I guess that's my fault for watching bootleg instead of Netflix, but didn't
I
have
mean,
my
you had
login.
to. Yeah, I was about to say. You sound like you had a choice, really. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I could have, I guess, sat on my couch instead of sitting at my desk, but you know. But to tie it back to my broader point, I guess, is that like I was so overwhelmed by the visuals that even in a dub setting, I was kind of just like, what am I watching? You know, and I think a specific example that I had at least, and I think we've kind of talked about this before the show and clarified it a little bit for me, but not fully. So it's hard to tell in this show and what we as an omnipotent viewer are seeing versus what is actually happening on the show, especially when it involves the Mononoke, you know? So and I think that goes with the fact that the art style, while it is really flashy and cool and beautiful and stunning, it stays the same between both like like both what's real and what isn't real, so to speak. Like there's no distinctive way to tell, which I think makes it very, especially with all the jump cuts as well. I think that makes it very difficult to track. I don't know. Like I had like a headache after watching this. I was like so tired of like focusing so hard and thinking so hard about watching it. I don't know if other people felt the same way or not.
So do you mean like when like when they're like in like their rooms and then the Mononoke starts to appear and then you can't, kind of like how they did in the OG show? It felt like it was in like another dimension. And this, did you
Yeah.
feel like it was like, were you trying to see like if it was supposed to be like, how do I describe it, as like some form of like alternate reality when the Mononoke actually takes place? Is that kind of like where your confusion
Yeah,
was?
it kind of, and like in general, like when shit just started leaking through the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And
like
then it just
the
and then it
kaleidoscope and
vanishes.
shit showing up.
Yeah, and then it just like vanishes, and then everyone goes back to like it's being normal. It's like, or which like not at all times. They have obviously like would comment on it sometimes, but it was just like what's going on? You know, here like what's the like I and this is not like saying that the show was bad by any means either because of this. It's just it was something that that exhausted me while watching the show, having to think this hard about it, and my eyes as well were hurting because it was just so much stimulation on the screen,
Mhm.
you know, especially because this show in particular has like tons of bright colors, lots of reds and yellows that are clashing and forming these complex looking flowers or just designs, and it's a lot. Like it's a lot for the eyes. It's a feast for the eyes, and I was full. All that being said, it is one of the most stunning shows I think I've watched visually in the last like 5 years as well. You know, like it truly was beautifully animated
Mhm.
and drawn. It's like it's a weird, I don't even know what to say at this point.
You know what? It reminded me of something, and maybe you guys have seen it too, where I think I kind of know what you want. In like Madoka Magica, when they like go and fight the witches, it's sort of like they're entering like a portal or whatever, and then if they beat the boss fight, then they come out of the portal, and then it's like back to the real world, and like having that instance of knowing what is the life, they're like real life versus like the when they fight the witches. I think that I feel like that's kind of like where you're leading towards, where like the visualization of understanding of like, you know, if you were outside in the courtyard, are you seeing this, or is it only the people involved in like that room? And I think I kind of get where you're coming from, because I do like it how they do it in Madoka, and a lot of this stuff reminded me of like the witch boss fights in Madoka. So I get it. I get where you're coming from. I don't know if anybody else like kind of felt that way too.
I think it's a mix of that to more just directly answer you, Pete. Like I think it's a mix of that, or it's more just like imagine if the rest of the show, the normal world of the show, was animated normally, and then like anything Mononoke related was animated the way it was in this show, or vice versa. You could do either. Like I say normal and like the I don't know, whatever you want to phrase it as, like distinguishable, like distinguishably different, which I guess the show kind of does with the goop kind of being kind of like rainbowy or like how like almost like oil slicky at points. But then it also just looks like regular water at times too. Like rain, like the rain was hard to tell it was raining outside or not. Like I like there are a couple things where just because of the nature of the art style, I think it's just so popping that it's hard to tell at times. Jay, you have something to say here for this? That was a terrible transition. I'm sorry.
All right. No, that's okay. My thing was being weird anyway. Yeah, I think that to give like a more topical example of what Pete was mentioning in terms of like transitions between, worlds that are like reality and worlds that are affected or whatever. I think Dawn to Dawn is just a premium example of that right now. Like when they fight the aliens, it's very obvious that they're in negative space or whatever it's called. I can't remember the exact term for it. And that, like it's explained to you, as a viewer past a certain point, you don't know at the start, but you know that it's not actually affecting what's going on in the real world. And that gives you a way to see the scale of what they're trying to do while also keeping the boundaries between what's going on there and the real world clear. And I do agree with Pat that sometimes it was hard. Like and there's probably like that's probably the point, and I get that, but it is still like it kind of illustrates a few, like probably my primary issue with the movie, honestly. And maybe I'd have the same issue with the series. And that I think that, like, I'm usually all for show, don't tell, but this movie just doesn't tell at all, like ever, basically.
Yeah, I'd love to bounce off that just because it relates to another point of mine. I agree with you entirely, Jay, that it's like that's my main gripe with the movie as well. It made me feel really dumb watching it at like most of the movie. And granted, I after talking to you guys about it, understood more than I thought I did, but I thought I wasn't, I guess, but because of just the fact that it really does not tell you anything. And I think that it just shows like something like when I watch movies, I use this example before the show when we were talking. The Inglorious Bastards is like my best example just because it came to mind. I like that movie because you can watch it and think about it a little bit and get the plot, get the themes, get what it's trying to tell you to do, understand what's going on screen. However, you can then also go layers and layers further, scene by scene, even frame by frame in certain situations, and get more from it as well. I like those kinds of movies more, or shows, or whatever you'd want to say, like more like that kind of media more than ones that I feel like I have to like pause multiple times, like I did with this movie, to process, rewind a few times, and just like that I have to be like locked in the entire time, or else I might miss like something like very specific, which like and again, that's not to say that this movie is like the worst offender of that, but it's just a trend I think I've noticed with my movie watching experiences, that I was just like, so what's going on in this movie? What are the general themes? And again, I think I just overanalyzed it in my head to the point where I didn't realize that I was actually right, Kat, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of disagree. I really enjoyed watching this movie. I felt like I was sufficiently stimulated watching it and this is kind of part of the reason why, like, when it comes to anime movies, like, unless it's like a really impactful emotional story or there's a lot going on the screen, I get a little bit bored. Like, there was so much going on that my eyes were kind of darting around, and it rewarded me for like watching like when we first see the doll kind of come up and it doesn't show it in the middle of the screen, and you see the two guardsmen that are there when they walk up and they like draw their swords and they look around and they see nothing, and you see the doll at the very bottom left of the screen. Like that was a thing that it doesn't like try to point out. It's a small little tidbit that if you're not paying attention super hard, it's like you're going to miss it, and it blips away almost immediately. Like it becomes a little bit more prevalent beforehand, but it shows that it's there. It shows it's there in a very small way, albeit with a large lead up with the stomping sounds that come from the timpanis that you're using. I also loved how the music kind of paired how the music paired perfectly with what was going on and just kind of added to that rising tension. It's really hard for a movie to like really get me, for an anime movie to really feel at the edge of my seat. But this movie with the visuals, and I said something about this as well. One of the things that made it feel a little bit uncanny was the way that the teeth were drawn at times when they had like the O mouth.
Yeah.
Like instead of having like teeth like this, they had the Tom Cruise teeth where it's like symmetrical right in the middle, like down, and it's got a tooth in the middle between your front two teeth. That just felt like really uncanny to me, and it's just such a small thing that stuff like that is hard to explain why something is uncanny. And I love that it was doing some of those things, not to make you try and feel scared, but trying to make you feel like something is wrong here. Other than just, hey, there's a Mononoke here. This world is fucked is one of my favorite themes going on in the movie. I also loved because when it came to the Mononoke, before people could really like contextualize it kind of felt to me almost like a looming threat that others couldn't really see. Like they could tell that it was there, and they could feel it, but they couldn't really see it until it was like right in front of them. They knew it was there. That's the thing that I kind of understood from it, and I kind of ran with that understanding, and that I think that was the understanding that we're going for personally.
Fair enough. I think mine more specifically is just with the like when they right at the beginning of the movie. I'm pretty sure the first scene, they're forced to give away something, right, of their own, and I was just like, okay, cool. So that's like going to be a big theme of the movie, is them being okay with the fact that they are being forced to strip themselves of their personal identity, or something along those lines. And then I think just watching it was so complex, the movie, like in terms of like what we've talked about, like showing and not telling, that I started to doubt myself for thinking that way, to the point where I gaslit myself into not thinking that that's what the movie was about until the end. And then at the end, even she like accepts herself, or well, the Mononoke is vanquished, and then what's her name leaves, the one that sucks at the job is left. Yeah, Kame, and then the other, and Casa, is that her name?
Asa.
Yeah. Asa stays, and like
She's the
clearly is
scribe.
gonna keep. Yeah, she does her role or whatever, like what she wanted to do. And then I was like, oh, so it is just about like that, like I eventually came back around on it, but I guess I just like confused myself at thinking too much about it, but a movie like this kind of demands that.
It is confusing at points.
Yeah.
You know what it remind me of, Pat, since
ahead.
you've seen it, is like Boy and the Heron, where there are so many Japanese like symbolisms and folklore and metaphors that go into it that goes over our heads, where if you want to like analyze it, you kind of need to know the baseline for those like metaphors, and we don't know all of them. So sometimes it's like there's a reason why this is on screen, but we don't know it because we're not from there. And I feel like Mononoke at points definitely had that, where I think the big thing where Boy and the Heron was metaphors. I think this was way more in symbolism. And there's just some symbolism stuff that just like went completely over my head. Like, what was the reason why this particular item was here? For instance, the scales, like they identify like what it does, but like I feel like there's a deeper meaning for those scales that we just don't know about. Like I understood, like, they gave us the broad concept of what the scales do in the movie. Like it was very easy to understand, but like I'm sure there's a specific word for those scales that if you were Japanese, you would know more. And it's like they probably mean something else that I just don't know. And so to me, it's just like it's a scale.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, that's a pretty good way of looking at it. Very good choice of the movie too, considering I'm also not the biggest fan of Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, because it's like I didn't agree with the
There's
message.
50 metaphors in that movie. It's like
Yeah,
it's just jam packed with it.
yeah, and I was just like, I don't get it.
Yep.
And then someone explained it to me, and I'm like, I don't like that message. So sick,
100%. I get that.
Yeah, that is very similar to how I did like the message, I think, of this though, at least. I know that that's not what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
But like this messaging in this movie I thought was excellent.
The theme, yeah, for sure. I
I
don't know if we
also
want to
think
talk
that
about it because it's like my favorite thing in the movie.
That's why I was opening the door for you, Pete, if you'd like to
Cat sounded
go
like he
away,
had
unless
something.
I was about to say, unless Cat has something else on the Boy and the Heron.
Absolutely not. I also think that they definitely haven't finished telling the story about the about this theme. Not the theme, but like the well, yeah, kind of the theme that they're trying to tell with Asa and Kame, because there's still the next movie that's coming out in March. Like this,
Interesting.
like they.
I
I
think it's
don't feel
completely
like
closed.
I think no, because that guy, the blonde guy, voiced by Kinjiro Suda, literally not named on any list. There's 0% chance he doesn't come back. He's too designed. Him and his children.
Hokuto Mizurogi is his name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, he's definitely going to come back anyway. He's way too designed, man.
yeah,
I feel like we're going to be in the Uku again. I'm not going to lie.
I think the next movie's gonna be like the two guards and
Ooh,
the guy that you
makes
mentioned.
sense.
I still think they're going to play a little bit into like having to let go of things, and how like you don't have to let go of things as well. I like either because, and maybe this is just me, like you don't have to let go of the most cherished thing to be to be what you want to be. Like that's
For sure.
I feel like they're going to play with that a little bit as well in the next movie as well.
I would love to touch on the themes, but there's one thing that I think that we need to talk about, and I mentioned it earlier, that the movie is called Phantom in the Rain, and a huge emphasis of this movie and so much of the symbolism and like the hints that they do revolve around water. So there's so many different elements where we hear I don't know, they're not concubines, but like what she has like the title of like housemaid and stuff like that, and like these like concubines in training, showing the symbolism of them drinking water, mentioning how they're thirsty and they're dry, and that's like a huge emphasis, along with like the well. The entrance to the grand chambers or something like that is through like a moat, essentially. So there's like a huge emphasis on water. Did you guys pick up any symbolism about water in this movie?
Oh, yeah. So, in my opinion, what the water represents is like, it's sort of about like collective trauma
Mhm.
and suppression, and how that, like, you see it entering the bowls, right? And rippling before filling up the bowls. Like, that's it filling up these vessels that are these women or people in the Uku until it spills out and they lash out or whatever. Like water, it's like they worship the water goddess. Obviously, like we have the corpses in the water. The air smells terrible because the evaporation, I assume, which then goes into the clouds and then rains down. So the rain is probably also like corpse water, probably. So yeah, no, like I think that the collective trauma aspect is a big part of it. And when people are affected by the rain, and as well as like the umbrella symbolism as well. Like
100%.
Karakasa is literally an umbrella
Yep.
yokai, as you can see in the wall things. And that's something that protects people from the rain. We'll talk about the end of the movie later on, but I think that Karakasa is not necessarily like I don't think she's like when they mention she doesn't have a grudge and everything. Sorry if this is a little off topic.
No,
Like-
this works with it.
Like it feels like she's more of like a like she to compare it to Don again, it feels like Turbo Granny in a way where like she is hostile to people who do harm to these girls and women in the Uku, but she seems more like a protective spirit, which is why like spoilers for the end of the movie, at the end he has the scale and it points straight up and he looks up and smiles. I think he realizes that she's still kind of there, and like now she's going to actually like sort of fulfill that water goddess role that they had thought that she was from the beginning.
I agree. I think this is kind of like also referencing a little bit to Madoka, where it's Karakasa herself isn't like, I wouldn't say like she's like an evil spirit, but more of like a descent into madness, where you see in her backstory sort of the regrets that she had when she was going through the Uku. I also think it's part of it where the Uku themselves tell how she just like left the Uku, where like she didn't leave the Uku, she died. And so like so maybe it's sort of like this like restless spirit where having like kind of like a grudge because like they won't acknowledge who she was when she was in the Uku, and then also her actual like personal, like you said, sort of like the trauma that she went through, like how upset she was that she threw down her prized possession down the well and how she regretted it like every single second, which is sort of the exact contrast of what Asa was. Did anybody else have anything to
Yeah.
tie to that?
So I agree with what you guys said. I also think that I may also have a second meaning, and it's also it's that it feels like it was supposed to be that the water was supposed to be nourishing, and what it was actually doing was it was eroding their own state. Being that like being at like how Kame was drinking the water and she didn't want to drink the water, and she was the most lively, although the most listless, but like definitely the most lively person in the Ooku, where she was she wore her heart on her sleeve. She didn't put up a front. She just tried to do what she thought what she wanted to do, although that's not the Oku is not a great place to do it. But you could see that like when everybody was at the Ooku, when they were doing the water drinking ceremony, like she would drink it and she would hate drinking while everyone else would drink it happily. And when they showed the rest of the housemaids in the or the servants in the chamber, everybody else had like these black faces. Now, of course, Asa didn't have those faces either, but I feel like that was because Asa wasn't letting it erode her. She was letting it nourish her in a way, which is one of the reasons why I don't think she had like the black swirling face, but Kame just wasn't fit for it. And eventually she ended up throwing it out, and she was much happier because she didn't throw it out, because she wasn't letting it erode her, because she knew it wouldn't nourish her. She wouldn't get anything out of it in her point of view personally. I feel like that was another thing that I could take out of the water allegory, I guess.
You actually, it's funny you brought up that scene. I think it's after the first time she gets scolded that before she was like, she didn't want to drink the water, but then she did. And then after she got scolded, there's like a scene where she's drinking the water and like her face like blips with like the swirly faces, like she's turning into that. But then the next time she does it, she resists it, and it's just her normal face. So it's really interesting to see sort of her falling in line with the rest of them, doing like what they're always told and not being herself with the water. So yeah. Pat, did you have anything with the water?
Nothing really specific. I did like that they justified why the water tasted like ass, like it tasted like dead people. I thought that was interesting. I think it makes sense for the why there was like physical stuff as well that was happening to the ladies, like the hands with the dots on them. Like I don't know what disease that is specifically, but it was implied that they were getting sick both physically and mentally as well, like that you could tell. I thought that was well done. But yeah, I wasn't fully following the water for the most part, at least during my initial watch through, I should say, at least. Like obviously now it's been explained, it makes a lot of sense to me. I was more thinking of it more in like a flow like water kind of way, like where like the water it's unstoppable. It continuously it doesn't matter. It doesn't care who you are. It just does what it does. And that was the way I was more interpreting it than the ways that you guys have brought it up. But at the same time, the way you guys brought it up makes a lot of sense. So good job, guys. Proud of you. I believe in you. Congrats.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Clap.
To go on to the thing where we were discussing, or that we were discussing earlier about the second movie and the third movie that's going to come out. It's actually a trilogy. The trailer for the second movie did actually come out, and it was in the trailer. It reveals that the second threat that is a second Mononoke in the Uku, the Hinazume, which is a fire rat.
Ooh.
And judging from looking at the trailer, it seems that the Emperor's concubines will be more in focus this time rather than the maids.
Nice.
House?
Speaking of the concubines, do you want to talk about like the cast itself? I know, Pat, you thought that the cast was maybe too big. I personally thought that it was really well fleshed out, but maybe we can get everyone's opinions on like the cast overall.
Yeah, I guess I can answer your point. Yeah, we talked about it a little earlier. I was frustrated by how many characters were introduced. Again, this is probably where I was asking for like the subtitles because it would have helped me just visualize and hear the names instead of just hearing them. But there were so many characters that were introduced that really didn't do a lot or didn't have much of an impact on the outcome of the resolution beyond like just being a different person to bully the annoying useless girl. Like taking the piss there. She's
there because she's
like,
hot. Like she's a concubine.
Right.
She's supposed to be a concubine. Yeah.
Right. But Asa's hot and she's good at things. Like, I don't know. But yeah, no, obviously.
But she diverses from the path of everybody else. But yeah.
Right. But yeah, I guess so like all this like Tokita Fuki and like who are all these characters? Like I didn't feel like they
that's
maybe
the
I just
baby. That's the baby mama. That's what the birthing ceremony. She's the one that had the child.
Right. And then does she die or something?
She's smashing the Emperor in one of the scenes.
That's it, though. Other than that, right? Like you don't see her again for the rest of the show, right? Like
maybe a movie too.
There's a festival at the end. You see her at the festival.
Oh, you see her barely at the festival, right? But so it's like I don't know. Like there were just so many names thrown at me in the first like 10, 15 minutes of the movie that I was just like, what the fuck how am I going to track all these people? And like what are they going to do in this movie? I get why they did it. I personally would have preferred like half as many people in. That's all. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think it was just something that you just had to take with the territory. Like we could tell that they were setting up for something more when they weren't doing anything with like the emperor that was I mean, not the emperor, but the concubine that was apparently the emperor's favorite, and the guy that had like the crooked eyes that was walking around all the maidservants and concubines and stuff like that. Like it was just kind of something that you had to take with the territory. Like for me personally, like there were a lot of names that I saw and I just kind of said, okay, they are not being shown to me more than 3 to 4 times, so I'm not really going to pay attention to them because they'll probably be introduced again in the next movie, or if they aren't, I can just rewatch it and deal with that later. Like it was something that I just kind of said, all right, that's probably not really something that I really need to pay attention to right now. It's more or less alluding to a later story in the next movie.
How about you, Jay?
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I first watched it, if I didn't know there was going to be another movie, I probably would like it less. But knowing that they're going to be expanded upon in the next movie, it makes me feel a little bit better about it. But I don't know. There's some characters like the guy I mentioned earlier, where I legitimately didn't even know his name, even though he has one. He seems like he's probably going to be pretty important. Like the maid with the glasses who was always seeing all the stuff and was outside of the room. Like, I wanted to know more about her. She was the cutest one, and we just got nothing. It kind of upset me a little bit. So I feel like the characters that they did focus on, I enjoyed them quite a bit, but I kind of wish that they had kind of condensed the cast down a bit. Like, they could have shown, and I feel like they did this with the concubines a bit, where they show them and then they're just kind of locked away in the night room for the rest of the movie, more or less. I wish they would have done that, like kind of sectioned off some more of the characters, especially knowing that there's going to be like a third movie, because I assume there's going to be even more characters we just don't know anything about in the second movie too at this point. So I don't know. I like the cast well enough, but I do think that it could have done with a little bit of more like portion control.
For
I
sure.
think I think the fact that there are more movies does make it a little bit more excusable. Or not that it needs to be excusable. You know what I mean? Like I guess like I understand why they did it more now, but at the time I was just like, who is this like what are they doing? Why are they saying they're saying names that I don't remember and like that have to sit down like pause to look up and stuff like that too. So it was weird. I definitely can see why some people don't mind it as much. I'm very name blind as well. I'm horrible at remembering names. If there's one thing that this watch club has shown over the years, I'm like, oh yeah, that lady and that guy. But yeah, sorry,
Man.
Pete. Did you? Yeah, that guy. Pete, what do you? Did you have anything to add to this
Yeah,
too?
because it's
go
kind
ahead.
of a mix between all of you guys. So there's like something in like the Apothecary Diaries where Mao Mao is sort of interacting with all three of the main concubines, which is something that I really love because it expands on. I guess there might be four concubines and
There are four.
four. Yeah, the four concubines in Apothecary Diaries, and it kind of expands the world a little bit with inside of the palace that I really enjoy about this. If this was like a TV series where we had like 12 episodes, I would want it to be expanded more. Since this is a 90-minute movie, I feel like you have to like cut corners somewhere. And it's one of those things where like, yes, I wish there was more, but if we get more content in other movies, I think it can make up for it. I think it's a detriment if it's not expanded upon in other movies. But for like right now, it's one of those things where I can kind of just like let it go. But like the main two, like Asa and Kame, like I love their dynamic. They're so fun where you have two characters there for two different reasons. Kame sort of has this idea of like her whole goal is to be a concubine for the emperor. Like that is her goal in her mind. She has to achieve it. And it turns out she's like an airhead and she can't really like understand simple tasks. She's kind of just there because she's hot. Asa, on the other hand, is there for the different reason. She would more rather be the scribe and work in like other areas than just being a baby maker, essentially. So, like that contrast between the two were super fun. Little Yuri coded, I liked it a lot. They were a lot of fun. The just sort of like the relationship that they had with each other was they bonded immediately, whether it's like best friends or whatever. Like I really liked their dynamic. I thought it was super fun to add that element into something, whether you consider this like a horror or not. I think there's elements to it for sure, but like having that contrast to horror was also great. It reminded me of like the contrast of like Cabin in the Woods, where you have the gore and the horror versus the comedy in that movie. So when you have like those different elements within the story, it makes for an incredible viewing experience from my perspective. So I'm a big fan. They also mentioned that there's 2,000 incoming or in progress concubines essentially, and we really only see like a handful. So I guess in terms of the larger cast, there's supposed to be 2,000 of them. So thank God we don't have that many, because that would be a pain in the butt to sort of. But I really enjoyed the cast. Like Jay said, that character Hokuto, he's like the blonde guy. There's like a scene where he's like spying, where like he's like in the courtyard behind a tree spying on like a conversation. So like he's obviously important. Otherwise, that scene makes no sense in the movie. So like
on the site, it describes him as the head of a certain family. I'm not sure exactly which family, but it's like a priest family that's revered within the Uku.
Okay.
So he's like a religious figure in
Gotcha.
the Uku.
Okay. So yeah. So he's higher than like those two guard dudes or whatever that we saw.
Yes,
hanging out.
100%. That's why they didn't like draw swords on him, or nobody even questioned why he was walking.
And he also doesn't
around
have the haircut that the other like guards have and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's,
he's allowed to have drip.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
pretty swagged out. But yeah, I get like the idea that there were like some characters that didn't get sort of the background that we maybe wanted, but I hope it's expanded in future movies because I think something like the glasses girl that Jay mentioned, I think it'd be really cool if they expand on that. Like we got the hint in movie 1, and then she's more of a prevalent role in movie 2. That would be sweet. I would really enjoy something like that.
Yeah, Pete, I actually really agree with everything you said there about like the core relationship being super strong in this movie. And like I kind of like how you have like the link click asterisk where it's a 9 with the potential to be a 10.
Yeah,
If
yep.
that's how I feel about this trilogy.
For sure.
Like not necessarily 9 with potential to be 10. It is pretty high though. But like I think it's a similar thing where I need to see the full movie trilogy before I can give a full judgment on each part, because it is like it's One Piece technically. The One Piece is real. But
I was damn it.
Pete, there's something I hate to make this me and you chatting, so the others can just me and you chatting, so the others can chime in obviously if they have an opinion about it. Did anybody else find that the comparison of Asa and Kame and Kitagawa and the girl, did that kind of fall flat for anybody else? Because Kitagawa didn't really give a shit about that girl compared to how Asa and Kame's relationship
Yeah,
is.
it was.
I get regretting it, but it's not like the same thing at all, really. Like
It was sort of like
Yeah.
why I was questioning like Asa's like rise to where she was in like the standings, because in like 6 days she went from entry level worker to running the like birth ceremony. Like that was quick, but I don't know. It's literally my favorite thing in the entire movie. Like I adored what they did with those characters. It's the reason why Kitagawa went to Asa, because Asa is the polar opposite of her, and she sees the mistakes that she made in her past is what she like she's like living vicariously through Asa. She wished she did the stuff Asa did. Like she regretted throwing down her prized possession. She regretted not like sticking up and supporting her friend that she had in there. And she wished she could go back and sort of like do it differently. Where Asa is, she refused to throw away her prized possession. She's willing to take part of the blunt damage that Kame had for her screw ups because she valued her more than like being a high ranking person within the sphere that they're in. Like it, that theming of like showing like who you were versus who you want to be and how they portrayed it in the movie, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Kat, you had something?
It was basically that I kind of agreed with Jay, because I guess like the comparison didn't really feel earned to me. I like where you're coming from, Pete. I like your enthusiasm, but like I didn't feel it as much. And for me, it didn't really bother me that much. Like I knew what they were going for, and I just kind of took it. Like I'm honestly not taking any points off of it because of how like how much the themes of it were pushing forward, but like it wasn't as it felt earned for Asa and Kame. It didn't really feel earned for Kitagawa for me personally. That's
Wait,
where I was
earned in
feeling
what
it.
way? Sorry.
Like it felt like it was, and maybe I didn't understand the complete explanation of what was going on with Kitagawa and the other house, or like the maid servant person that we were being explained.
the one who got
Yeah.
thrown in the well, sent home and thrown in the well.
Yeah, that was where I was kind of, the explanation didn't really hit home for me either, because it was a lapse in attention, or maybe it was a little hard for me to keep up. I was watching this at work the first when I watched it. So
Oh, Jesus, man. Come on.
Hey, Pat watched it on
man.
2X, so who knows?
Yeah.
No, actually, it's a movie. Come on, I'm better than that. I did it at
But-
1.5. No, I'm kidding. I actually watched it at 1. No, I watched it at 1. I swear to God.
Can I
did.
cook for a second? Because
Yeah.
Kat, like, you're agreeing with me, but now I'm disagreeing with me. Because like in my head, I was like, man, Kat spitted. It could have been any girl that got thrown in the well. And then in my head, my feminist training kicked in that I got from the Women in Gender Studies house at the University of Southern Maine. Shout out them. It could have been any girl. Like, that's actually like a whole, like, her not being a character that's like super fleshed out and has like, it's kind of important in a way. Like, because the whole thing of the uku is like suppression of a group of people, in this case specifically women, but some men as well who were forced into like being guards and stuff, but for the most part women. And like, I think that her just being like a faceless kind of nobody character, like, that actually kind of illustrates that like this happens to anybody, even people that you don't know, even people that you don't necessarily care about. You should still care about them if something like this is affecting them, and think that it's wrong, even if they're not a named person to you.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I cooked.
that is a really
I'm not
good-
gonna lie.
Yo, is that a
That is a
3-star
really good
Michelin
example.
chef over there? Bro, you cooking. Pat, did you have anything on this?
I already went, didn't I?
Oh, did you? My bad.
I think.
I got secondhand smoke from the cook. My bad.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I see I agree with the point that Jay's making there. I think it makes a lot of sense. I agree generally as well with what they said about how I didn't feel like it earned the resolution that we got in a way. I felt like the chemistry was there with Asa and Kame, like everyone else is also saying. Like, I felt like that connection was really well shown and drawn out, and Asa's decision making makes a lot of sense. I don't fully understand how the demon was really lifted or shaken, or what were the 3 words that it mattered. Like, it has to be identified, labeled, and what was it?
I forgot, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the form, reason, and truth.
Shape, truth, and reasoning. Yes, that. Like, maybe that's just me, and also like that's probably like a language barrier thing too. Like, even with it translated, it doesn't perfectly make sense in English. That's the way I'm interpreting it, at least. Because like because I was just kind of like, all right, well, we either get it or we don't. Like, or we either know what it is or we don't. Like, how is there any gray area there? I even right now, I'm not making sense, I don't think, talking about it. So like, again, my brain just clearly is not big enough for this show to understand it, which is fine. Does anyone have any other major talking point before we do probably closing thoughts? We're getting pretty close to an hour. I'm proud of us for talking this long. I really didn't know if I'd be able to talk about this show for that long, just because I didn't know what to say about it other than
That's why we bring the squad, baby.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts of Watch Club. All right, I guess we'll do closing thoughts. Kat, why don't you start closing thoughts and your final score?
Oh, this show was
this stuff.
This show was was a treat for me to watch. Like, it was visually stunning. It, like, watching the medicine peddler be back in, actually being able to watch him in a new story was so refreshing, and I didn't realize what I was missing until I watched it. Like, this movie was a welcome change from all the isekai shit that I watch. Like, man, I loved it. I loved Asa and Kame, their dynamic. I also I loved the drama with Mugitani and Kame, and seeing how Mugitani just started to become so fucking toxic, and for both Mugitani and I think it was Awashima, I think. I think it was Awashima, the chick that cut Kame's hair. Like I love the toxicity of it, and then the immediate payoff of you're doing terrible things because you feel slighted by her freedom, freedom in a way. Like I loved that symbolism, and God, there's not enough that I can praise about this movie. This is a 10 for me.
10 out of 10. All right. Jay, what about you?
Yeah. So this movie actually made me develop a scientific way to measure the J factor.
Ooh.
And I'm not going to go into it in this episode because it still needs a little bit more refining, like the scaling and everything. But whatever we got next time, be prepared. Which is to say that this movie has a lot going on for it. The music was really solid. It reminded me of Mashal at points, if that makes sense. For those of you who watch Mashal, whenever he starts like beating the dog shit out of people, there's usually a dude rapping in the background. And they were kind of doing that at the end of Mononoke when he was beating the shit out of Karakasa. So I like the music a lot. Obviously, the visuals, like it was a breathtaking visual masterpiece. But I do think that it was a bit busy at times. I would have preferred like. And I don't even mean like busy as in like a lot of like color and stuff, which I do agree with Pat in a way, although I liked it. I mean in terms of movement. Like there was a lot of movement on the screen at points, and I kind of wish that they had let some of the frames linger a bit more. Like there were these beautiful like environmental designs. I'm sorry if I'm using like video game terms here, but I'm not really sure what else to say. But like these environments that they drew up and everything, the wallpapers, all that, there's so many beautiful frames of it. Like every frame is a painting, truly. And they just like go past them willy-nilly. They don't linger on any of them long enough, in my opinion. Like I want to just like frame by frame pause it the entire time, which is it's a blessing and a curse. So I don't know. Aesthetically, vibes wise, this movie pleased me quite a bit. In terms of like actual plot progression and stuff, I think there were a few things that could be done better, but knowing that the next movies are going to also take place in the Uku and we're going to be with these characters for the whole trilogy, it allows me to kind of like brush that back a bit. Like it doesn't affect me as much. So I'm gonna just swagger jack Pete from Link Click wholeheartedly and say that this is a 9 with the potential to be a 10 for me if the trilogy goes well.
Swagger Jack.
That's a good word. I was waiting for the 7.8 out of 10, too much water. Like to continue the gaming trend here.
Too much water, not enough.
Damn, that would have been really good, actually. That's crazy, Pat.
Well, you just kept talking in your closing thoughts. I couldn't have jumped in any earlier, unfortunately. Like, how dare
just
you
talk over me? It's fine. Like
in your closing thoughts. I was about to say just like that, yeah. No, no, that was a good one. Good clap back. All right, Pete, what about you? What have you got for closing thoughts?
So I mentioned a few times in the episode that this movie reminded me of two shows combined: The Boy and the Heron and Madoka Magica. Two shows that I thoroughly enjoy. While there were things that went over my head, I think the entertainment value of this movie was like off the charts. There were two times while I was watching this movie where I got up to get snacks. The first time I went and got snacks, I said, wow, this movie is really setting up to be something awesome. The second time I went up and got snacks, I said, damn, this movie is gas as shit. And when I finished it, I was like, this movie is fucking flames. I loved it. We didn't talk about it. I thought the final fight scene was just fucking mind-blowing. I thought that was so cool. So much fun. Reminded me of just this giant boss fight that you would see in like, we saw in like Rebellion and Madoka. Just wild, crazy, multicolored. What the fuck is going on? This is so cool. I loved it. Just brilliant stuff. Love the cast. I love Asa. I adore Asa as a character. I love characters that like stay strong-willed to their nature, stay true to themselves, and she did that, and it made perfect sense in the story with the contrast with her and Kitagawa. I loved it. This movie was an absolute blast. I gotta think about it. If it's the best movie of 2024, it's that or Look Back. I can't tell. They were both just like incredible movies that I saw this year, and I could just gush about this movie for 12 minutes. Like it was great. This is a 10. It made my top 100. I have it right now. I have it like the series total at 71. This was just incredible. I thought this was just like breathtaking, never bored, fully engaged the entire time this movie was happening. It was enough where if we wanted to, we could dive more into it, which I love about movies. I don't know if I will, but if I want to, it's there, and I like that, like having that option. And it was just fun. It was just so much fun. Like I like that this isn't like horror or like gory horror. It has like this supernatural folklore stuff that goes on that we don't know about that I'm so intrigued by. This movie was just a breath of fresh air from what I've been watching. It's unlike anything else really. I love it. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
It's hard to follow that up. You kind of just
sorry.
went
I'm
off there.
very
Good for you.
passionate about anime.
I've noticed. I wish I was as engaged as Pete was throughout the whole movie. I wish I was as and I think part of that is not being able to follow it entirely. And I guess again, maybe that's my fault. Big dumb brain. Go ahead, comment it, whatever.
It's a lot.
It was a lot, and I was not enjoying it that much in that sense. However, there were plenty of things I did enjoy about the movie. So I'm not going to be sitting here dunking on it like I did with, I can't even remember the stupid fucking MyGo show we watched last week. But
Bang
yeah, that show.
It went crazy.
The MyGo show? You mean MyGo?
You mean My Goat?
Well, I almost said Girls Band Cry, but I was like, wait, no, I liked that one.
You're gonna disrespect Girls Band Cry like that?
No.
Well, I was about to by accident. If you guys listened to what I said.
I listened.
Yeah.
Never,
Thank
never
you.
in your fucking life.
Thank you, Pete. That someone listens. Yeah, I still think that this movie, I think it's very similar. I'm probably gonna say a lot of the same stuff I said about the last time we did Mononoke too. I can see what it's doing, and I think it's beautifully done, and it's intentional, and it's really well thought out and well done. I did not have a lot of fun watching this movie, and specifically this arc. So maybe again, I will look forward to seeing the next parts of the trilogy, because, like Jay said, if it continues to improve on it and make these characters relevant, then that will eliminate a pretty big qualm for me. I think production wise, this movie's incredible. I do also agree with what Jay said as well with the animation. That was one of my biggest complaints, was the jump cuttiness of it. I was trying to piece together why it was doing that. Why did it feel like I was watching like Bakemonogatari at points, and then it like didn't matter that much. At least it didn't seem to. And again, now someone in the comments is going to be like 4-paragraph essay about why it was so perfect. Yeah, exactly. Like why it was so perfect and why it mattered and what it meant every single time it happened. And to that, I will give you a thumbs up, but I couldn't follow it. I'm sorry. It was too much. But all this to say, I still did think that this is like an objectively good movie, and really cool to see 17 years later after the first one. That's really cool that they were able to keep that quality, keep that vibe. The vibe felt very similar to the original show as well. And it deserves a lot of credit for that. So I think 8 out of 10 is a completely fair score for it from everything I've said. Which means our average score between the four of us, because Miles doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, are we not counting it?
We should definitely count it.
I mean, he watched it, but he didn't show. He did show up, but he's not.
Wait, Miles wasn't on the episode?
Yeah,
he hasn't. Wait, who have I been talking to this whole time?
Yeah, I don't know. This is we've never, to be fair, we've never had this happen before either, where someone halfway through an episode, not even halfway, like before they could even have like an actual valid thought. I don't know.
I think we count it because he tried. It's not like he slept through an episode or something, Patrick.
Well, when I was deathly sick
Yes,
last week.
you're
I had
selfish and you know it.
100-degree fever, laying in bed, waking up, pissing
Hey.
myself, and then going
Hey.
back to bed.
What did Jordan
Well,
do in his flu game? He dropped 40.
That's such a fake. Oh, he did not actually have the flu. It's
He was
unbelievable.
hungover.
Yeah, like it's so dumb. I hate Michael Jordan so much, man.
I mean, he hates you too. That's why his eyes went black.
That's
What?
why he rocked the Hitler stash.
I think we should count Miles's vote. That's all.
We
fair.
should definitely
we should.
100% count.
You
Miles.
guys just want to have this be the top movie.
It's not
of
beating
the,
Girls Band Cry.
Yeah, I think it is with his 10. Is it not?
Oh, he got a. I didn't know what he gave it.
I'm assuming he didn't give me the vote, by the way, either. Just so
Oh,
you
you
know.
give you
So
the score?
he didn't give me his score. No,
He definitely gave this a 10.
Hold on.
but we should definitely find out first.
Pretty sure he gave
Yeah.
it a 10.
Let me- That's the beauty of having a public anime
Forum.
list. Hold, please.
Pretty sure he gave it a 10.
Hey, Trent, can you put some waiting music
Yeah.
on over this?
He did not.
Like some smooth jazz.
Okay, executive decision. Miles didn't give us his score, and he's not responding. So he does his score does not count. Pat, take it away.
Denied. Okay, yeah. So to go back to what we totally didn't take just 10 minutes of time to figure out, to what I just was saying, we had ended up with a final average aggregate score. That's the wrong way to phrase that. God, we suck at this. Of a 9.25
Damn.
between the four of us. That's a pretty damn high score. That puts it most likely in the top, maybe not quite top
That's
five.
my top 5.
I think it's just outside, just because there's a bunch of.
Oh, you gave it a 10.
No. Well, too late.
Too late. Sorry, Miles.
9.25. We already calculated it.
Rest in
It puts
peace,
it.
Miles. He's gonna
Come
be so
on.
sad.
I'm
He
not
is
gonna-
going to be upset.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make Trent go back and do it. We're not gonna do that.
No, let's not. That puts it actually in fifth, behind 0.03 points behind the disappearance of Haruhi, which is how did we get a
This is the
0.28?
opposite of the bubble NBA ring, if there was ever such a thing. This is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I did pretty well considering one of its 10s wasn't here. But either way, it still wouldn't have been our most liked watch club, even if Miles' score did count. So there is that.
But if it
caveat.
did count, what would it be?
It would have been a 9.4, which it would have been tied for second.
Nice. Okay.
Like tied for second with the other two 9.4s.
Mhm.
So yeah, pretty good show. You guys should go watch it. Even I can say that as someone who sat here and complained a lot, but I still enjoyed it enough. Yeah, let's talk about what shows we're watching for 2 weeks from now. Miles, take it away.
That's low.
Okay, coming in dead last was my show, because I'm an idiot. Maidens in Your Savage Season.
I thought you were talking about High School Dad.
No. And coming in third place, surprisingly for both myself and Pat, Mob Season 2 came in third, so it does earn its first legacy point. Second place, losing by 0.5 points.
Wow.
Which included legacy points as well. High School of the Dead. Fuck
Oh,
me.
so close.
It's unbelievable. We had it there, losing by a 0.5 of a legacy
That's
point.
insane.
Or one legacy point, which is 0.5 of a point. And then we had multiple other votes come in, including YouTube and everything else. And it still lost by 1 legacy point.
Now,
Two.
I put it in second place.
I know, you should have put it in first. Sorry, Jay. Now, in first place, obviously that only leaves one show left. That's Astra Lost in Space.
Yeah, we're all sussy
fine.
bakas, baby.
Yeah, so we're going to be watching Astra Lost in Space that aired in 2019. And yeah, that's what we're watching. Pat, take it back. Okay, boys. So now let's talk about what we're nominating for the week following that. Our first show of 2025.
Ooh.
Holy shit, we'll be in year 6. Well, technically, no.
We're in year
gonna
6 now.
We'll be in year 6 still technically
Still,
because
yes.
that's how time works.
Yeah.
But the 7th calendar year that we are technically friends in and doing stuff in. No, we're not. Fuck. I am
got
just
this,
trying
buddy.
to say words. I'm saying words. Trent, you're gonna be a hero when you edit none of this
Do not
out.
edit.
And then
Trent just does like
leave
the
me.
shrug. He's like, "What do you
Yeah.
want me to do?"
Yeah. Exactly. God, it's actually hard to do both of these things at the same time. All right. Kat, that's your name. What show are you nominating?
Oh, the show that I'm nominating is a show that I don't think any of us have watched, or if you have watched it, it's down on your mouth. And a show that I was told by a lot of my coworkers who don't watch as much anime as me, told me that I should watch. I'm nominating Hellsing Ultimate.
You can't. The episodes are an hour long.
Oh, they are?
Yes, it's like Katana Gotchery, where it's like 10 episodes, but each episode's like an hour. Which we should add that to the pin of shows that. Hold on, let me.
Yes.
I'm almost certain that that's the case. Let me just double check. Maybe I'm
It's
smoking.
49 minutes an episode.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought they were like really long.
So in response, instead of Hellsing Ultimate, I'll nominate Hellsing.
Okay.
Well done. So not Hellsign, Hellsing. The show from 2002.
2001, 2002, yeah.
Do that. Anime number 270 on Mal. I always like it when they when the number is like 1 or 2 digits, or well, in this case 3, I guess. But it's funny to see. That means it was one of the OG ones. I think it was anime number 1. I think it's Cowboy Bebop. Is it? Yeah, it's Cowboy Bebop is anime number 1 on Mal, which is funny. Cool. Jay, what about you?
This show has recommendations for like similar, like if you like the show, watch these that are high pedigree. Things like that we've already covered, like Wandering Witch, The Journey of Elena,
Hell yeah.
Frierin, Beyond Journey's End. We didn't cover it, but we've all covered it in some way,
Right.
Spice and Wolf, Girls Last Tour. I'm nominating the number 1 highest rated show of 2003, Kino's Journey.
Ooh, that's a big boy. That's a big boy. I like that.
Okay, Kino's Journey, anime number 486. Wow, we're really digging into the vault here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Miles nominated O Maidens again.
Mhm.
We'll let him nominate at least because he did show up and also did obviously watch the show too, which is probably the biggest, most important aspect for getting your shows nominated for Watch Club. Pete, what are you nominating?
So I'm actually going to nominate a show that I have seen, but according to Mal, none of you have seen. And it's a show that I think is going to be really, really fun to talk about. And that's where I'm leaning into it. I think somebody nominated it before, but I think it's only been nominated once. I'm going to nominate Undead Girl Murder Farce.
Hell yeah. I've
Dead.
seen that.
You have? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're
bro,
on
we
Andy
talked
list.
about
So,
that so much.
me and Jay have seen it. Kat, Pat, and Miles have not seen it.
That'll
I've seen
get
a
a good
bit of
vote
it.
for me. I love it. That OP's
That's
a
it.
banger.
It was my favorite from last year. Fucking love that OP.
Looks like a Miles show for sure. Interesting.
It's
All
just-
right.
It's
super
definitely Miles will love it if we watch it. Except maybe the first part, little mini art.
Oh yeah. Well, Miles show non-derogatory specifically. Yeah, that cool. All right, and I'm gonna go with good old faithful that keeps that now 2 weeks in a row. By the way,
Next
has
time for
lost
sure.
by 0.5 points 2 weeks in a row.
Dive
and has
Mining
finished-
Diamonds meme.
Yeah, like surely one of these days with 6 legacy points now, it's got to win. It'd be so much fun to talk about, guys. Like God.
I can't wait to talk
High
about
School
boob
of
physics. I
The
can't wait.
Dead. Yes,
Yeah.
no, that scene's iconic. Like that's like a
It is.
not to be.
It's
like,
on
Are you
like a
turning
top
Canadian?
it's a seriously, it's a real like goes beyond. My girlfriend knew what that scene was before. Like when I brought up the show, she was like, "Oh, is that the show that has the bullet that goes between the boobs?" And I was like, "Oh my god, that transcended anime into regular pop culture." So like that, this show is massive. like the titties in the show. So like, why don't we vote for it? You know,
This show is massive for all the wrong reasons.
No, it is
it's
super-
not.
it's super
It is
fun.
so good.
It's super
It's
fun.
fun. It's actually got a coherent plot and characters with good motivations, and it's ridiculous. And it's a zombie movie or show, by the way, too. Don't see that a lot in anime. It's so sick. It's like Zom 100 was like such a refreshing thing that happened this past, or I guess year ago, in anime, where they actually did like a post-apocalyptic zombie thing in anime, and it was good again. It's like the first time since High School of the Dead, which was also so good. Like, oh man, I love it. But yeah, so that those are the shows that are being nominated. I guess that wraps up Watch Club. Thank you guys for listening. And Pete, why don't you take it away?
If you have made it this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. If you're watching us on audio only, we do have visual content on Spotify and YouTube. Next week, we will be looking into 2025 and doing our winter preview, checking out all the new shows like Sakamoto Days and whatever else is airing next season. Otherwise, if you're here for Watch Club, we will see you in 2 weeks for all you sussy bakas out there for Astra Lost in Space. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.